It's here. The moment that doesn't knock, it crashes in like a silent wave at midnight, flipping your world without warning. July 2nd isn't just a date, it's a doorway, and some of you are about to step through it without realizing you were ever standing at the edge. Imagine standing on a cliff in total fog. You can't see what's next. You can only feel the pressure in your chest. That's what this energy is. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't care if you're ready. It arrives anyway, pulling you deeper into yourself. And here's the truth nobody tells you. Most people don't fail their awakening. They get ambushed by it, not because they're weak, but because they expected light, not fire. Plato once said, "The soul takes flight when it escapes the cage of the body and begins to remember." But what he didn't mention is that remembering can burn, especially when you realize the cage wasn't just around you, it was inside you. And breaking it? That's war. This is why you've felt distant from everyone lately, not because you're broken, but because your frequency no longer matches the noise. When the old world starts peeling off your skin, silence becomes your only friend. And somewhere in that silence, something ancient wakes up, something that feeds on the glow of those rising. I'll explain more soon, but for now, just know this. What you're feeling isn't just real, it's spiritual warfare. So don't scroll. Don't ignore this message. Like and subscribe right now if your soul has been sensing something. Drop 777 in the comments if you know you were meant to hear this. And hit that like button to help others wake up before it's too late. Chapter 1. The Silence Before the Shift. Because what comes next, that's where most people vanish. Not physically, but energetically, spiritually, they start disappearing into themselves. Their names still exist in your phone, but they stop replying. Conversations dry up. Your room gets quieter. And your heart, it starts whispering things your mind can't quite explain. This is the silence before the shift. It's the kind of silence that feels like the world forgot you, like you're floating through your own life as a ghost. But don't panic. You're not lost. You're just shedding. When a snake begins to outgrow its old skin, it doesn't ask for company. It finds a dark place and disappears for a while. That's you right now. This isn't isolation, it's incubation. Your nervous system, yes, your actual body, is being rewired, and noise would only interrupt the download. So the universe mutes the room. Friends fade, habits break. Nothing fits anymore. Why? Because you're not meant to return to the version of you that could survive in distraction. Nietzsche once said, "And those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music." That's what this phase feels like. You're starting to hear music the world was never meant to understand. But if you mistake this silence for failure, you'll go back to sleep. This is where the brave keep going, not because they're certain, but because they trust what's waking up in them more than what they left behind. And if you've made it this far through the silence, it means something ancient in you has already started rising. What you're feeling, it may not be yours, but it's asking you to face it anyway. Chapter 2. Guilt from Other Lifetimes. And that's where things get even stranger, because the deeper you go, the more you start to feel haunted by something you can't name. Not fear, not anger, guilt. But the kind that has no origin. It shows up like a fog, heavy, constant, unexplained. You might catch yourself thinking, did I hurt someone? Did I forget something? Why do I feel like I did something wrong? That's not your mind talking. That's your soul remembering. Some guilt doesn't come from this life. It comes from echoes, from timelines your body forgot, but your energy never did. And on July 2nd, with the moon rising into its first quarter, that pressure tightens, like an unseen tide pulling forgotten pieces of your past selves to the surface. Not just this version of you, but all the versions you've ever been, the ones who didn't speak up, the ones who walked away, the ones who caused pain, or were never able to heal it. The residue is surfacing, and it doesn't care about time. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This is that moment, when all that was hidden starts to knock, not to punish you, but to free you, because you can't forgive what you never remembered. And this strange ache in your chest is your soul inviting you to finally remember, to finally release. Most run from this part. They blame the guilt on stress or overthinking. But the ones who sit with it, breathe into it, and offer compassion to every version of themselves, they don't just heal, they break a cycle that's been repeating for lifetimes. Chapter 3. Your biology is rewriting itself. And once you begin to release what no longer belongs to your spirit, something even deeper begins to shift. Your body, yes, the very biology you were born with, starts to rewrite itself. That heaviness in your chest, that ache in your back, it's not proof that something's wrong. It's proof that something buried is rising to the surface to be healed. But the mind won't be the first to notice. The body will, and it will speak through strange signals. One morning you'll wake up and suddenly your favorite food tastes off. The clothes you once loved feel tight in a way that has nothing to do with size. Even your favorite scent might start to make your stomach turn. It's like wearing a costume that no longer fits, because you've outgrown the frequency it belonged to. This is not a trend, it's not your imagination, and it's definitely not a phase. On July 2nd, as the moon reaches its first quarter, a cosmic switch gets flipped. Subtle, but undeniable. The light doesn't just hit the sky differently, it hits you differently. And your body, the sacred antenna of your soul, starts rejecting anything that no longer aligns. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." But what happens when the soul shifts color entirely? The body must catch up. That's why sleep becomes unpredictable. That's why places, foods, people, even your own voice might feel foreign. Most panic. They think they're losing themselves, but really they're being rebuilt. Those who force themselves back into their old patterns stay stuck in the old frequency. But those who listen, who stop resisting and start trusting, begin to accelerate. Your body isn't breaking down, it's tuning up. And once it fully syncs with your soul, nothing can stop what's coming next. Chapter 4. The ego's final screams. And just when your body begins to sync with the frequency of your soul, just when things start aligning, a new kind of noise breaks through. Not from the outside, but from within. It's a voice you know too well. The one that sounds like your own thoughts. But it isn't. At first, it whispers, then it panics. What are you even doing? This isn't real. You're losing control. You're not strong enough for this. It hits like a mental ambush, loud and convincing. But here's the truth. It's not you. It's your ego, screaming for its life. See, your ego isn't evil. It's just afraid. To the ego, awakening feels like death. Not because you're in danger, but because everything it built your identity around is now being dismantled. And on July 2nd, under that sharp half-light of the first quarter moon, that fear intensifies. Why? Because the moon splits the sky into equal parts shadow and light, mirroring your inner world. And the ego uses that chaos to make one last attempt to pull you back to what's familiar. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." That's the ego's domain. Imagined disaster. It knows your triggers. It mimics your logic. It even borrows your past wounds to convince you that stopping now is the smart thing to do. But here's the key. Don't fight it. Just watch it. Witness the ego without giving it the steering wheel. Let it scream if it must, but don't let it drive, because the moment you stop reacting, it starts dissolving like fog touched by morning light. Most people think they must destroy their ego to awaken, but really, all they need to do is stop mistaking it for the truth. Chapter 5. The Shadow That Comes to Be Seen. And once the ego's screams begin to fade into background noise, something older, something far more ancient, rises from the deep. It doesn't shout, it doesn't chase, it waits. This is the moment where the true test begins. Not with what's ahead, but with what's been buried beneath your skin all along. Because the scariest part of awakening isn't the future. It's meeting the past you locked away. The shadow doesn't come dressed in darkness to destroy you. It comes to be seen, to be remembered, to finally be loved. You'll start dreaming vividly, seeing faces you haven't thought of in years. Emotions you thought you healed will return with a vengeance. Anger, jealousy, guilt, shame. Not to punish you, but to ask, do you still want to forget me? Or are you ready to understand me? Carl Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. This is exactly that. Awakening is not a ladder to the sky. It's a spiral staircase downward into the cave of your soul, and your shadow waits there, holding every part of you you once felt unworthy of love. Imagine a child who was told to be quiet, to be good, to hide their tears. That child didn't disappear. They became your shadow, and now they've come knocking, not as punishment, but as a plea. See me, hold me, set me free. On July 2nd, as the moon slices the sky into light and dark, it also splits your inner world open, and the parts you abandoned will rise, not to haunt you, but to be healed. Most people panic. They label this regression. They run, but those who stay, they transform. They sit across from their shadow like an old friend. They ask, what gift did I bury when I buried you? Because every shadow holds a forgotten strength. And the question now isn't whether the darkness will appear, it's whether you'll finally stop running from it. Will you listen, or will you silence it again and repeat the cycle? This is the turning point, and it's where most never make it through. Chapter 6. The Void Between Identities. And just when you think you've faced the worst, when you've made peace with the shadow and quieted the ego, a strange emptiness begins to grow. Not pain, not fear, just nothing. This is the void between identities. A space where the old you no longer fits and the new you hasn't fully arrived. It's disorienting. You don't just forget who you were, you forget why you ever started changing. The fire that once fueled you dims. The passion, the vision, the mission, it all feels distant, like a dream you can't quite remember. And you begin to wonder, am I evolving or just falling apart? But this isn't failure, this is a spiritual reset. Rumi once wrote, try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you. That's what this moment demands, surrender. Because what's really happening is energetic. Your old identities, your roles, your ambitions, your ego goals can't hold the weight of your expanding soul. So they collapse. But before anything new can anchor, the system goes dark. This is what no one warns you about. The intermission, the blackout, a space where everything feels slippery and unreal. You start questioning everything. Was I imagining this path? Was it just a phase? Was I ever really changing at all? That doubt? It's not the end. It's the tunnel. The mind empties so the soul can step forward. But most people panic here. They reach for something, old routines, old distractions, anything to make the fog go away. But the void isn't asking for answers, it's asking for stillness. If you fight it, you lose your way. But if you remember the feeling, the goosebumps, the quiet call, that deep, irrational knowing that something bigger was pulling you, then you'll survive the forgetting. And eventually, something stirs. Not a memory, not a reason, but a frequency. A new inner rhythm begins to hum. Subtle at first, but unmistakably true. It won't sound like the old fire. It will feel like peace. And that peace will be your new compass, not flashy, not loud, but unshakable. Chapter 7. Predators of the Light. And just as your system begins to settle, just as you begin to hum with a new kind of truth, that's when they appear. Not in cloaks, not in shadows. Sometimes they wear smiles. Sometimes they sound like love. But they come all the same, the predators of the light. You've just stabilized into a higher frequency. You're no longer leaking energy through confusion or chaos. Your field is coherent, radiant, and clear. And ironically, that's when the real test begins. Because now, you shine. And when you shine, the dark takes notice. Think of a lighthouse in a storm. It's not the flickering bulb that draws attention. It's the beam that cuts through miles of night. That's what your energy becomes, a signal, a living broadcast, and not everyone tuning in comes with good intentions. Some feed on chaos, on doubt, on open channels, not always entities. Sometimes it's that person who suddenly can't stop calling, the one whose words seem sweet but always leave you drained. Or that stranger in the store whose gaze lingers too long, the dream that felt like a trap. The friend who suddenly turns cold after you level up. These aren't coincidences. They're energetic intrusions. And unless you've trained yourself to read energy first, before faces, before words, you'll miss the signal. Spiritual sovereignty isn't about building walls. It's about boundaries made of awareness. It's the skill of knowing, that's not mine. That thought, that fear, that sudden fog, that doesn't belong to me. When your signal gets scrambled, when you feel like someone's pulling on your frequency like a loose thread, pause. That's the sign, not to panic, but to seal. As the Stoics say, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its surroundings. Your job isn't to fight every shadow, it's to guard your light. And the most dangerous predators, they don't attack. They flatter, they mirror your wounds, they present as your missing piece. But you don't owe your energy to anything that doesn't leave you whole. When the static creeps in, when your clarity feels tampered with, return to your center, not with fear, but with fierce presence, because presence is your protection, and your light, once sovereign, can't be stolen. Chapter 8. Emotional floodgates and soul purging. And the brighter your light becomes, the more sacred your energy becomes. Not in the way that makes you better than others, but in the way that makes you more responsible for your presence. You stop protecting your light out of fear and start protecting it out of reverence, because you begin to realize this isn't just your glow. This is your soul's signal. And as that signal grows stronger, the world around you begins to respond. Patterns shift. People fade or appear. Opportunities rearrange themselves like pieces in a cosmic chess game. It feels as if the universe had been waiting all along, quietly watching for the moment you'd finally wake up to your real frequency. But with that rising energy comes the flood. And when the flood comes, it doesn't knock. It doesn't warn you, it just rises. 1 minute you're sipping coffee, the next you're doubled over with grief that doesn't make sense. You're driving, and out of nowhere, tears rush up like they've been hiding in your bloodstream for years. You're laughing with someone you love, and then a wave of rage or guilt crashes over you like a forgotten storm. This isn't random. This is soul purging. It's the emotional body releasing what the mind never processed. Grief you buried to keep going. Rage you swallowed to keep peace. Joy you withheld because it felt too unsafe to feel. And the lunar surge of July 2nd. It's not just moonlight. It's a cosmic crowbar. It cracks open the dam. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." But when it comes to soul purging, it's not your estimate of the emotion. It's your refusal to feel it that causes the most suffering. This stage of awakening isn't about fixing anything, it's about allowing. Imagine standing in the center of a raging storm, not fighting the rain, not plugging your ears from the thunder, just feeling it. That's your task. Not to resist the flood, but to become the vessel big enough to hold it. Because emotions are messengers, not enemies. Data, not danger. And when you allow them to pass through, without clinging, without shame, they leave. But if you resist, if you try to stay positive or overanalyze, they lodge deeper, looping back again and again until you finally surrender. True emotional mastery is not control, it's capacity, the ability to feel it all and still remain present, to witness yourself without abandoning yourself. And those who survive this flood, who stop fearing their depth, begin to move through the world differently, like mystics, like lightning rods. And when the waters finally recede, what remains is not just calm, it's clarity, the eyes of someone who has seen the storm and stayed awake through it. Chapter 9. The flatness after the fire. And after all the storms, the floods, the shadow work, and the purging, silence returns. But not the sacred kind you learned to honor before. This silence feels empty, flat. The world doesn't shimmer the way it used to. Colors feel faded, food tastes bland, music sounds like background noise, conversations feel scripted, like you're playing a role you forgot how to care about. This is the part no one warns you about, the flatness after the fire. You've just burned through illusion, the enchantments that used to dazzle you, status, romance, ambition, validation, don't light you up anymore. And it can feel like something's broken inside you. But nothing is broken. You're just sober now. The sugar coating of the matrix is gone. The world hasn't died. Your old way of seeing it has. Nietzsche once wrote, "And if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you." But after the abyss, after it has stared through you, stripped you, and left you standing raw in the center of your truth, you must choose to see again, not with old eyes, not with old fantasies. This is the moment where many people give up. They think they've failed, that the magic is gone. But what's really happened is this. The universe has handed you back the brush. It's your turn to paint meaning into the canvas of your life, not from illusion, but from intention. Re-enchantment is a sacred skill. It doesn't happen automatically. It requires presence, reverence, play. You begin by noticing the details, the way the sky shifts just before rain, the hush in the air at twilight, the way candlelight flickers like it remembers something. You become the ritual. You start to whisper to trees, not because they speak, but because you finally can. The spiritual doesn't disappear. It deepens. It stops being something you chase and starts being something you create, not for show, not for escape, but because that's who you are now, the mystic, the meaning maker, the one who survived the fire and stayed to plant flowers in the ashes. And when that spark returns, and it will, you won't just see the world, you'll feel it breathing with you, not louder, just real, just alive. Chapter 10. The test beyond survival. And even after all of it, the purging, the silence, the re-enchantment, your journey still isn't over. Because just when your light stabilizes, just when your frequency becomes strong and steady like a heartbeat, the world sends a test no one warns you about. Not to break you, but to verify you. This is the test beyond survival. Most think awakening ends with healing, but survival was never the finish line, it was the initiation. If you've made it this far, through the confusion, the silence, the chaos, the shadows, then you've already done what most never could, and that's exactly why the next part begins. Quietly, subtly, powerfully. Because now the universe wants to know, will you embody what you've become? This is where the path shifts from healing to holding. Holding your frequency when no one claps for it. Holding your center when the world around you tries to pull you back into the noise. And most of all, holding your truth without needing to explain it. You'll begin to feel it in your body first. Your nervous system, once fragile and reactive, now adapts. You stop flinching at change. You stop doubting the quiet. You stop chasing the next high. Instead, you move like water, fluid, sensitive, unshakable. You no longer try to be spiritual. You are, without labels, without the need to post it, prove it, or package it. As Lao Tzu said, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be." That's this phase, letting go of the seeker and becoming the signal. Intuition stops being a guess. It becomes your language. Boundaries aren't rules, they're your natural rhythm. And presence? It's no longer a practice. It's who you are now. People will feel it, not because you say the right words or wear the right crystals, but because you radiate the calm of someone who's made peace with their own fire. And that's what July 2nd really is. Not a storm, not a mystery, a gate, a crossing point between who you were and what you now hold. Most never make it this far, but you didn't just survive, you became. And if you're wondering whether you should do any rituals during this time, the answer is yes, but only if they come from alignment, not fear. Rituals aren't mandatory during awakening. You don't need candles, crystals, or incense to pass through the gate. Your presence is the power. But if your soul feels called, genuinely, deeply called, to mark this moment, then yes, ritual can become a powerful anchor. Simple is sacred. You don't need to overcomplicate it. Light a candle with intention. Sit in silence. Speak aloud what you're releasing and what you're ready to embody. Write a letter to your past self, then burn it as an act of release. Stand under the moon, barefoot. Place your hand on your heart and simply say, "I'm ready to remember." These are not small acts. They are frequency markers, signals to the universe that you're awake, willing, and open. Water is especially powerful during this lunar shift. Take a ritual bath or shower, and as the water flows, imagine old timelines washing off of you. Visualize your energy being recalibrated, not through force, but surrender. But here's what not to do. Don't do rituals just to feel spiritual. Don't chase trends or force a feeling that isn't real. The energy on July 2nd is raw, ancient, and highly intelligent. It doesn't respond to performance. It responds to authenticity. If you feel emotional, let yourself cry. If you feel empty, sit in that emptiness. That is the ritual. And above all, don't overfill this moment with noise. This shift isn't about doing more. It's about becoming more still, more conscious, more you. Whatever you do or don't do, remember, the ritual is only as powerful as the presence you bring to it. And if you can meet this moment with reverence, the universe will meet you right back. If you're still here, thank you for your presence. It means more than you know. If this message resonated, hit that subscribe button and join us on the path of deeper awakening. Your support keeps this energy moving. Share your thoughts or experiences in the comments. I read them all. And if something in you stirred tonight, trust it. Until next time, stay grounded, stay open, and remember, you're not alone on this journey.